From We Run With You, I'm Kathy Wynn.
And I'm Rob Alvarez. This is Doing Good. This season, we interview brain aneurysm survivors and caregivers to learn how they are navigating new challenges and finding their own way of doing good.
An unexpected voice, family, community, and CrossFit helped Mandy Drake not only survive but thrive after suffering a ruptured brain aneurysm. This was a truly special episode, getting a firsthand recount of what happened to Mandy, not only from her perspective, but also that of her loving husband, David, who stood by her side through it all. Hi, Mandy. Hi, David. Thank you so much for thank you so much for joining us on the Doing Good podcast. It's summertime, but the Drakes are coming straight to us from Spring, Texas, right?
Right.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah,
Where it's
welcome
super
to
hot. Definitely feels like summer here.
the show.
I don't envy you at all, although there are days here in Delaware that is just oppressively humid.
Yes.
Yeah, so great to have you both on the show. So, Mandy, I know you are big into CrossFit. Maybe we'll start with, how did you get into CrossFit and when? How long have you been doing that?
I started back in, I think it was 2018 in the fall. I had a good friend of mine. She was an investor in a gym where we lived in Boerne, Texas, which was northwest of San Antonio. We were living there and the gym was real close to our house, and she and her husband were investors in it, and she kept trying to, her kids went to the same preschool as our daughter. So she was trying to get me to join, and finally I decided to take a private lesson with the coach, the head owner coach, and her. She came along with me so I knew someone. And after those first couple of private lessons, I was hooked.
You drank the Kool-Aid, huh?
And I drank the Kool-Aid. I drank a lot of it.
Still does.
So
Were you able to drag David with you?
no, I took
Took a brain aneurysm.
took a brain aneurysm to get David to join CrossFit.
Oh,
There you go.
awesome. So now you're also a CrossFit junkie, David?
I mean, not to her extent. We actually like she's like the biggest like CrossFit nerd that I know. So yeah, I mean, I think that's probably okay. But yeah, no, it's been fun. I've only been doing it probably since November of last year. So she finally convinced me. So.
Finally got you
I
there.
don't have any more excuses when she's going after a brain aneurysm. So
Aw.
I can figure out.
So Mandy, I guess what kept you going? I know what got you introduced to CrossFit, but what was it about CrossFit that kind of hooked you?
I like weightlifting a lot, and I think the weightlifting, and along with, I'm not a big fan of cardio, but like a lot of it's cardio while you're doing weights, so a lot of like fast paced reps and stuff like that. So get your heart rate up, but doesn't feel like it as much. Like I can't stand like mindlessly running on a treadmill or something. I know it's silly, but I lose my mind. But it's just different for me. It just jived with me a lot.
Yeah.
Being able to do heavy weightlifting and stuff.
Yeah, it's the sneaky cardio that you
Yeah.
get in with CrossFit that your body just doesn't know. But
For
it's almost like you get the best of both worlds, strength and cardio, but the cardio part you just don't even think about. And I was laughing at the treadmill running part because I'll run forever, but well, not forever, but I hate I call it the dreadmill. I don't understand how people can run so long on the treadmill, but anyhow, the dreadmill, but anyhow, yeah, totally agree.
Where you don't have anything to see, it's just kind of monotonous and repetitive.
So besides CrossFit, what was life like for you guys before your ruptured brain aneurysm?
So I'm a stay-at-home mom. I quit my job about right before I moved to San Antonio.
Yeah. So
It's 2015, I think.
yeah, it's about 5 years before aneurysm. She was
Okay.
at home.
Yeah. She's now 10, our daughter. So staying home with her and making sure she got to school and got home and did her homework and just kind of doing everything around the house and cooking. And I mean, I would say cleaning, but not really. I've never been very good at cleaning, but I'm good at straightening. I could do that all day
Hey,
long.
can't complain.
That's important too.
It is. It is important.
So, can you take us to the day of your rupture? I don't know what do you remember of the either the days, kind of the days prior, leading up to it, or the hours, and then when it
It,
happened, like any
we
symptoms at all?
we actually had friends over the night before it ruptured.
Yeah.
We had them over for dinner, and I remember though I wasn't feeling so great that whole weekend. Was I?
Yeah. You were like, I mean, you did CrossFit like 5 times that week and everything like that. But I know it was right around Easter that year. So like, we had some friends kind of over a block from us that she would always go over there, but they have like an Easter get together, and she stayed here like that Sunday before, so like essentially a week before, and like just like, hey, I need to take a nap. But I mean, nothing. There was nothing that was like
Nothing
crazy.
like
Yeah,
crazy
I mean,
alarming
nothing
or
that you would
anything.
think
Mm.
was something like that serious was happening.
Yeah, I think like you said, I worked out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So yeah, I mean
that
nothing.
week before. And then it was just I woke up Sunday morning and I felt weird and I just knew something was off. I remember asking David to call 911 and he was like, "Really?"
Oh
Yeah,
wow! So you knew immediately it was really something serious.
Something was really weird. It felt really off. And then I think after you called 911 is when I started throwing up.
yeah. You just felt like she had like nausea and everything, but like I mean, she walked to the when they got here. Like I called 911. They got here. I assumed like kind of everything was like okay. Honestly, she started keto like the week before, and I was like, she forgot like her electrolytes off or some weird diet thing. That's
Yeah,
all I was wrong. So like even when she left, like she was like fine pretty much. So yeah.
Can you explain to us or describe to us what that odd feeling was or weird feeling that you were experiencing?
I'm trying to remember. My head just felt kind of funky and I had a really bad headache, I feel
Mm.
like.
Yeah, you
And
mentioned your vision was blurry whenever like you were having me call the ambulance, and you knew something was like seriously wrong. She's like, "Am I dying?" Like when they put her on there, I was like, "No, you're fine. Like, what are you talking about? You're like talking to me or whatever." So like, I don't know what else you felt there, but I
I
know
don't
you mentioned
remember.
like your vision. You said your neck hurt really bad.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think at the time I was worried that it was something like meningitis or something
Yeah.
mm.
because I was having my neck was real stiff and I was having a real bad headache.
Yeah, well, those are the symptoms.
Right,
Headache, blurred vision, and stiffness, neck stiffness. And then, of course, the aftermath, which is, the vomiting and yeah, but
of course.
that's great that it must be that I'm it's good that you're so in tuned with your body that you knew instantaneously that something was really wrong. Because
Right.
I think a lot of people either they feel like, well, it's nothing, or you could have used all those other excuses like the keto and maybe working out for too long, but that's good. That's very fortunate that you told David to yeah, and I'm
Definitely.
glad that he didn't have any other things to say like, "Hey, you'll be fine." But that's good. That's good that you took action. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people would just say, "Oh, maybe I'll feel better in
Mhm.
like an hour," or I.
it's because women are smarter than men.
uh,
We're gonna quote that, everyone. David said, "Women are smarter than men."
I won't. I won't argue with that.
It's smart.
So, I think I read a little bit about your experience at the ER and kind of the big coincidence. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I mean I can tell you what I know about it from what I've heard about it because I mean my memory is just completely gone from that
Mhm.
day, except for that morning waking up and feeling weird. But the ER doctor on call who was there is a friend of mine from my gym, Afton McNerney. So she's a fellow CrossFit athlete and works out at my gym. And I guess she was working on me and didn't realize it was me at first. And then she went to sit me up and saw like it was my face and went out to the waiting room and asked if it was Mandy Drake.
Yeah. So I can kind of, maybe.
David, jump right in. Yeah.
So I kind of, she left in the ambulance. I obviously like didn't, as you could hear, I am not in tune with anything apparently. Whatever. So I had to go find some place for our daughter to stay. I even like gave her a phone to bring, right? And she obviously was not answering it because she was in pretty dire straits at that point. But I didn't know. So dropped my daughter off, and because she wasn't answering, I was like, well, I guess I'll just kind of go up there. Luckily, they had told me where she was going, or I would have never even known where to go. So drove up to the hospital. They took me back into like a waiting room whenever I got up there, which like again, I'm a little clueless. So like in hindsight, I probably should have known that like something was probably wrong when they bring you into like that little room. But Afton came in and she was like, "Is that Mandy Drake that goes to CrossFit Anava?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, she's like, "Okay, what have you heard?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And so she had told me like, so Mandy had stopped breathing on the way to the hospital. At that point, like she was, everything had crashed, right? And so they were like fairly certain she wasn't going to make it, right? So they were trying to like prepare me for that, right? Like her head was like half shaved already, and she had the tube in her head to like drain her brain fluid and stuff. So she was they were working on it. They had her bagged and everything else because she couldn't breathe on her own. They were trying to get, they were kind of like bagging her and trying to get fluid out and had her on the ventilator and everything else. But Afton did say, which I thought was like pretty cool, like, kind of knowing somebody in the ER. She said, later on, she was working on her, didn't even know that it was her. And then, she realized it. And so whenever she went intubated her and put her on the ventilator, you hit the button. She said like nothing happened for a second. She goes, "Mandy, breathe." And so she started breathing like as soon as she she like heard that somehow out of all that chaos.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Pretty jarring sight, right? Like from everything like being like
Leaving the house.
pretty much okay to like things being really, really bad, like like that.
That is so quick. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it went sort of downhill quick. If
Yes.
you're
Yeah,
thinking, oh, she'll be fine, and
Yeah.
then yeah, oh my gosh.
So what was going on in your mind at that moment, David?
Oh, I mean, I was just a little bit of shock, right? Like you don't know, you're just like kind of surprised, trying to like figure out what is going on, right? And so the staff there was all like, they were all very good. So I'm trying, honestly, like once that happens, at least for me, there's not much to do, right? They have professionals that like, can do that. So I'm really good at like staying in the corner of the hospital room. I figured out, and just kind of like, trying to let them work, but then just trying to figure out logistics, right? Like, hey, the person that I dropped our daughter off with that I was going to go pick up in like 2 hours, I'm like, hey, listen, like, I think Mandy's about to die. Like, she's going to have to stay there for a while, right? And, then like trying to let family members know, because, pretty quickly they brought her out of the ER up to like the neuro ICU. Just that move almost killed her. I mean, they had like 15 people in there. I do remember the nurses there who are all really good. I was like, I was upset, right? And the nurse goes, "Do you want to sit down?" And I was like, "No, I'm fine. Like, leave me alone." And, I was just trying to figure out like what the hell just happened, because I mean everything was good. Like we were sitting there hanging out with friends. Like that morning was fine, and then just all of a sudden things were like very unfine in a really short amount of time. But it was just trying to like kind of figure everything else out, right? Like I know like for me, I just I just sit there, I just said a prayer and said, "Hey, like God, you got this. I can't do anything
Leave
here.
it in your hands.
Mm.
I'm just you got this. Whatever you need to do, I'll take care of getting some folks up here." I knew it was bad when this was still like COVID was going on, and they were they were like, "Hey, bring whoever you want up here. Like everybody should come up." And I was like, "Well, that's not good.
That's not what you want to hear.
No,
Wow.
certainly not." So just trying to get people up there and deal with the logistics. So while she was just taking a nap.
Wow. Yeah, I
I
can.
really, yeah.
Yeah, I can relate a little bit. It wasn't as crazy as that, but yeah, when it happened to Kathy, you know, at that point, I think one of the first obstacles for me was they didn't really know what happened to her
Mhm.
when we got to the ER, or what was wrong with her. That was the thing. I was like, figure it out, please. Like, what
Yeah,
tests do you have to run? Like, run them right now.
right.
And then, but they were like thinking it was maybe emotional, and you know, they were like the ER doctor was asking me, did you guys have a fight before this? What
Oh,
were you
good.
guys doing?
Yeah. It was
Or,
I was called having I was diagnosed with behavioral
yeah,
issues
or are
and
you guys doing,
seeking
yeah,
attention.
or were,
Wow.
Oh
yeah,
my goodness, that's absurd.
yeah, or were you, yeah, I mean, it might sound bad, but I was like, I was kind of ready to punch the ER doctor, but I mean, I probably,
Yeah,
something
that would
about
be
like just my frame of mind at that point, because because she had just collapsed and lost consciousness, and I was like, well, what is
Yeah.
going on? And and it
Mhm.
seemed like, I don't know, at that point, it may not have been that long a time, but it seemed like it was a long time that nothing was happening. And I know they're probably doing stuff behind the scenes as far as getting stuff ready or getting tests ready and stuff. But I was like, you know, I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
She
for
is
sure.
not conscious. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, well, both of us had read the article that was written about you, and I think it was such a tremendous article. And I love, I cannot pronounce her last name, but Dr. Afton, correct? I love
Security.
the fact that she indicated on there that all the symptoms that you had was exactly what they were looking for. You know,
Right,
for as far as those are signs of an aneurysm, and when I read that, I was like, finally, a
right,
doctor who really
yeah,
is in tuned with the symptoms and a female doctor.
right,
I will
definitely.
insert um, because we have spoken to many other guests on the show that a lot of medical professionals feel that, and I don't know if it's just because we're women. Um, but they feel like we are, we just get so worked up that we just
Right.
collapse and just go and take a nap. but yeah, that is so key that you not only did you have I'm just going to say it, a female doctor who is in tune to these types of um, symptoms, but also what a blessing it was for
For
her
sure.
to know you and to actually call your name. Um, that's just
yeah,
when I read that part, I was like, oh my God, that's so incredible.
Yeah, I feel so very fortunate for ending up at Memorial Hermann and having Afton as my doctor. Like, I feel like that was just a meant to be thing.
Hmm.
So it was super fortunate.
Yeah.
yeah. And in all the survivor stories that we've heard through We Run With You, there's so many of these little, for lack of a better word, coincidences, or you know kind of lucky breaks um that survivors um run into, that kind of get them to the right place at the right time with the right
Hmm.
people. Is That's, it's amazing, the coincidence that, yeah, she was from your CrossFit gym and she knew you. I mean, I think, just to think, what if it wasn't her there on shift that day, how different
The
could
outcome
your
be.
outcome be, or
But
your
then,
experience be, right?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I think
amazing.
about that too. I mean, not that I'm sure that all the doctors there are quite talented and know what to look for and everything, but I don't feel like it was, I mean, trying to figure out how to say it. I feel like I was there at that time for a reason.
Yeah, you're
Hmm.
put here with a purpose, right? Like, and even for, like, kind of in our lives, we're northwest of San Antonio in the Texas Hill Country. It's like beautiful. COVID hit. they closed down our office and moved us back to Houston, which we didn't necessarily want to do. I guess nobody at my work can like hear this now. But we came back to Houston. We'd not been in our house very long, 6 months before this happened, because we moved back to Houston in 2020 into our house, and like that fall before it happened. So I mean, like, God put us right here.
Mhm.
It was a Sunday morning where the traffic wasn't bad. So when she stopped breathing on the way to the hospital, she had time to get there. We were put here for
There were
for
a lot
that.
of things at play.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. So once they got you, I guess, up to the ICU, David, did you gather family around?
Yeah. So like, when they got up there, I talked to her. Uh, they kind of said, "Hey, everybody should come up because it's probably, like things, we're not looking good, right? They're kind of struggling to keep her alive there." And so, yeah, I just kind of, people started showing up. We had some good friends from our old, where we had just moved from about 3 hours away.
Wow.
I literally, I called them. Nurse came in to like update me, so I hung up on him, and like he immediately knew something was wrong. So he grabbed his wife. They were coming in. Family was coming in. So we had a large gathering, right? And in Houston, like we both grew up here. We still really good friends with a couple of girls. We actually went to high school together. We went to high school with these girls as well. And so we have a really like, strong support group to here. Like they were all up there trying to help out and see Mandy. And yeah, so we had a pretty big contingent. We had taken over the waiting room for not just that day, but about the first week or so. So
That would be the case with me as well. I come from a really big family. As you know, we're from Delaware. We transplanted here from Southern California, but all of my family was in California, and we were there for a wedding. And yeah, our waiting room had like umpteen nephews and nieces, and I'm like the youngest of nine, so majority of my brothers and sisters were there. So yeah, they took up a lot of space, but but it
Yeah,
was fortunate for Rob to have that
yeah,
support there.
Say,
So same as you, right
yeah,
place at the right
yeah.
time.
When you talk about being where you are, yeah, like we were uh, there in California just for that weekend, I think, and we're so lucky we were there. I think just so many reasons, and we like then when the day happened to Kathy, like that following morning, we were gonna fly back to Delaware. So
Mhm.
it could have happened on the plane. It could have happened,
Yeah,
any time around there.
yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
It's yeah, it's so crazy. Um,
Definitely.
when did they? I guess, or how long did it take them to find where the aneurysm was and
oh,
treat it?
uh, yeah. So she went in there. I think I mentioned like she kind of stopped breathing, put her on a ventilator. She was out in a coma. So about a couple days afterwards, they maybe the day after, they went in
Mm,
and tried to find the aneurysm, and couldn't find it. So he actually thought it was a AVM there for a little bit, like the
Mm,
arteriovenous malformation.
mhm.
mhm.
So that was like the initial diagnosis when he went in there, because everything was so bloody still inside of there. And so they came back out, and they didn't really try again for about, gosh, it had to have been 3 weeks or so. They were trying to get her. She had in all of this happened. She ended up having a pulmonary embolism as well that they had to take out.
Wow.
So they were trying to get her on blood thinners. And so he went in. She had actually just discharged from the ICU and
Wow.
into inpatient rehab. And he went in. Her neurosurgeon went in to look for it. And this is, yeah, I mean, it had to have been over 3 weeks afterwards. And he actually found the aneurysm. It was about this guy. I mean, just absolutely amazing doctor. Like he he was going in for just an exploratory look, just to see if they could put her on blood thinners. And he found it. It was 11:30 at night. It was, I mean, I was there for all the procedures except for this one. He was like, "Go home. Like, we're just going to take some pictures. It'll be fine." So I walked her down. I went home, and I laughed. I have a really good friend here in our neighborhood, and we were sitting out in my garage on I think it was a Thursday night at like 11:30 having a bourbon, and the doctor called. I was just kind of waiting for him. He's like, "Hey, I found it." And this guy had been doing surgery since 7 o'clock that morning.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And he was like, "I'm not going home till I fix that." And so they had to pull back out with they go up through like the artery or
Yeah,
whatever,
female artery. Mm-hmm.
retool and go back in. And he had it fixed in about an hour after he
Wow.
found it. Yeah, just absolutely amazing. So,
That is-
but yeah, they fixed it. He fixed it right away, and she was back in rehab that Monday or Tuesday, I think.
So I guess wow, it's crazy that you were there so long before they found it. So
Yeah.
Mandy, do you remember the day you woke up
Yeah.
from the coma
Um,
and what that was like?
Not exactly. I mean, I kind of remember waking up, but I don't really remember that day specifically. I just remember kind of waking up and thinking, "Oh God, something really wrong has happened." So we live in Houston, so the allergies are typically pretty bad here, and I'm usually pretty congested and phlegmy. I remember waking up and I was clear and didn't have any of the congestion. I was like, "Something bad has really happened."
Do you recall anything about having to go to the hospital, or you're like, what am I doing here, and why am I
Um,
here? Why am I in the hospital?
I'm trying to remember the day I woke up. I don't really know that I really processed it.
Yeah, I think you told me your first memory is like talking to one of your friends, right? Which was at least a couple weeks after you woke up. So I know like when she first started to well, I can actually tell you. So like they when you're in a coma with that and you haven't been awake at all, like they don't know what kind of damage has been done, right? Like how you're gonna
Yeah.
wake up, right? And so, like, while we were still in the ICU, she was still pretty sleepy, even after they kind of got her off the stuff. She was intubated for a long time, right, with the tube like down her throat. So they eventually went in and did the tracheotomy, and so then they could start taking her off and waking her up, right? And so once they did that, she got to the point where she was awake. They're trying to get her. They do these like sternum rubs, which like look pretty terrible.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah, I heard it's really painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently not if you're in a coma.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
For those
So,
watching.
I guess it's a good test whether or not you're in a coma.
yeah. But he. So anyway, they they woke her up. They're trying to get her to wake up. They still don't know how she's going to be. And like the first thing they did, they're talking to her and her lips started moving. And I was like, "Hey, blow me a kiss," because it looked like she's trying to blow a kiss, and she blew me a kiss or whatever.
Oh.
And the nurses started crying,
Oh.
and they like left, and then they were like friending me on Facebook, and I was like, "Okay, well that's a good sign. Like I think we're gonna be okay." It's like kind of like the first good news when I got like the friend request.
From nurses.
Yeah.
That's
But
so
that was that was kind of first, and then it seemed like it took a little while to like get in touch with reality. I think she said she was in a shopping center. We thought she still had the trach in when she first woke up, so you without like the little voice thing on it, it was just like an open tube. So you're trying to like myself and the neuropsychologist were trying to read her lips. So from reading her lips, I believe that she thought she was in a shopping center. Well, we may have been bad at reading lips. So.
I don't remember, so I have no recollection of it.
Yeah, and she was in the same place, right? So they have the inpatient rehab was like literally in the same tower of the hospital. So they moved her from the neuro ICU up the elevator to the rehab, the inpatient rehab, is where she kind of like started to wake up, and that's where you're first. Like when you're talking to Jamie, that's where that. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I remember that. I was FaceTiming with Jamie, right?
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah, I don't know if that's might be a kind of a protective way our body or brain protects ourselves from some trauma like that is to not have any memory of it, or to have some short-term memory loss at the right after. I think I've heard many stories like that. So, Mandy, what was recovery like for you in the, I guess, the rehab
Um,
unit?
it was quite a bit of work. Um, I don't remember how often we did our therapy.
A lot, it seemed
It
like.
was yeah. All I can remember is that it seemed like a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So a lot of physical therapy, a lot of occupational therapy, some speech therapy.
Yeah, especially getting like swallowing again. You had to learn how to swallow again,
Oh, wow.
Mm,
talk again. She had to go through the whole like, getting the point where she could breathe with, because they had her off the machine. You had to figure out how to breathe and then talk again, and then eventually like getting that the the trach out and everything. So,
so I don't really remember that part.
yeah,
But
yeah,
thankfully, I think,
yeah.
like you pointed out, Rob, I think that's for a reason.
Yeah.
Now, were there any moments during recovery or even, let's say, months? Because I know you're back at CrossFit, you're back at it again. But during those months or a few weeks after, you were moved and getting to physical therapy or OT, were there any moments during that time where you felt like, how am I going to get back to taking care of my daughter or my family or getting back to what I love again? Were there any moments of despair?
Yeah, there have been quite a few moments of despair. I'm still not like, and even now to this day, like, I mean, I may be doing stuff like going back to CrossFit, but I have to have someone to drive me because I can't drive right now
Mm.
Mm,
because my vision is still impacted pretty significantly. Um, so yes, I would say there were definitely moments of despair with that, just because it's been tough and it's well it's tough to wake up and then you're a shell of the person you used to be,
mhm,
and everything's just completely different. And it's a hard thing to process.
yeah. Well, I have to say that, I had told you earlier that, I stalk most of the fellow brain aneurysm survivors. And you know what always gets me so inspired when I see other survivors, and particularly with you, is I don't know when this video was, but it was you trying to do, I don't know if it was a deadlift or something, but I do I do kettle cross, but I don't do like CrossFit. That's just too hard for me. But anyhow, I was watching you do this and I was just like, well, first I was like kind of bawling and I was like, this is just so amazing. That, and I think you were shaking a little bit too. I don't know if you are do you have some balance issues?
For
But,
sure.
I think you tried it a couple of times, and when you did do that lift, I was just like, I don't know, you may have heard a thunderclap or ringing in your ear, but I was like, "Oh my god, that's so amazing," and this is just a video. I think I may have watched it several times because I was just so it was just such a powerful moment to see someone go through what you did, and I didn't even know the extent of your story, the full
Right.
extent of your story until today. I just knew that you were an aneurysm survivor and that you loved CrossFit. But just
Yeah.
seeing that one video, it's just, it's I I'll say it again, it's just so inspiring to to see someone just going back and doing hard things. Yeah, that's really good that you had that CrossFit strength mentality to get
Yeah,
you
for
through
sure.
this.
I actually texted my friend Sandy, the one who got me into it, and I told her, "Thank you. I think you saved my life. I really appreciate it."
Yeah, she did.
It was funny,
So,
but yeah.
Mandy, what do you think helped you most through those first weeks of um, rehab or recovery?
I think a lot of the mentality of just doing CrossFit and just being mentally tough, and you need to be strong too. I think physically, but also mentally. I think that made a big difference in my recovery. Just being used to that kind of commitment.
What do you think drove you to really push yourself and get back into it? Because I know it's hard.
I think a lot of it was David and Maddie, just knowing that I had them around still, and I'm still here for a reason, and I need to be a good example for our daughter and a good wife to my husband, and get back to as much of the person that I can be. Yeah, they were there for me at my crappiest time, so I want to recover and do as much for them as that I can as possible. As a thank you for taking care of me and for being there. Sorry, I want to get.
Oh. No, I can completely understand. And you're not the first that have said that, because that's how I was when I went back and did my comeback race, uh, just a year shy. And really what motivated me was because I wanted to show all the caregivers, all my medical team out in, at Keck Medicine, my doctors, the nurses, that's a great way of showing them that you're okay. And I can
Right.
certainly understand that. It's how they say actions speaks louder than words. I think that's what we're doing. We're by our actions, by going back and thriving.
Right.
We may never be 100%, and that's okay. And that's okay. But I think that when we are capable of, pushing ourselves and trying to get as back to normal as possible, I think that's what everyone wants to see for survivors or for their families and friends who've gone through, such a traumatic event. But I want to get back to you, David. Now, what what do you think of your wife now? I'm sure she will and always was a wonderful, beautiful human being. But what do you think of her now?
Answer right, honey.
I did-
I mean, I'm just impressed. Just the toughness that it takes to like kind of get back, dust yourself off and get back. I'm just proud of her for doing that. It's not always like it's always a challenge. Like the new normal looks different than the old normal, but like that's okay. And so like it's proud of her for getting back at it. I mean, we're back at a point in our life where she can take care of our daughter. We can go on trips together. We're all still here, right? And we're not, so what if, you need a driver to take you somewhere? It's all logistics, so like, just happy to have her around and she's dusted herself off and getting back at it. So.
Good answer.
I am mad at her because she made me do CrossFit, and I'm always there now. Other than that, I'm very happy.
He loves it. He drank the Kool-Aid too.
Yeah. Well, that's
As
awesome.
a running hat, he's a famous competitive CrossFit athlete.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's cool.
Well, that's awesome that now you guys, get to both enjoy this really cool sport.
Yeah, he loves going to work out in the mornings before I go at 9:30, so he can tell me how terrible the workout is.
I do like that.
It was terrible. Although I've come to realize that we have a completely different definition of terrible when it comes to CrossFit. Like he loves all the cardio stuff, and I hate all the cardio stuff. Give me all the weights and strength. I'm good.
You guys would be a great if there was something like that, a CrossFit relay team. He could do all the cardio. You could do all the strength.
I'll take the strength, you get the cardio.
I like it.
That's awesome. So I guess now you kind of kept in touch with the ER doctor. I think it's Dr. Tierney. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Mhm.
Have you guys kept in touch? Has your relationship changed from before to now?
I would say it's probably pretty much the same.
Okay.
I'll see her every once in a while at the gym. I get really excited when she comes to work out at the 9:30 because that's generally the class I go to. And I get super excited when she comes in at that time, but it's not very often. So it's just kind of here and there every once in a while.
Yeah, it's fun to like see her in real life, right? Like I saw her this week when I was at the gym.
Yeah.
It's fun to like kind of like see her in real life. I know I text her on her aneurysm anniversary, which is totally a thing that people should celebrate.
Yeah.
Made T-shirts for her first when we
It's
went
a
to
big
Vegas.
deal. That's cool.
Yeah, and just say, hey, thanks, appreciate it. But it's cool to like kind of like know that person, and then not only her, we keep in touch with a lot of she keeps in touch with a lot of the nurses and staff. They actually had her back at the hospital a few months ago.
Nurses Appreciation Week, they brought me and one other survivor back to meet with some of the nurses on the staff for the neuro ICU. It was a pretty cool experience. Like, I feel like the real treat was really for us, because getting to come back and see these nurses who work so hard and diligently with us was pretty amazing. It was quite a treat.
Yeah. Well, it was. I'm like family with those people. She was in a coma the whole time, so she has like no idea who they were, and I'm like, oh man, it's great to see y'all. And she's like, who are these people? I have no idea who you are.
I had a couple of them friend me on Facebook afterwards, but
yeah,
that's about as far as I know them or remember them.
Yeah, so pretty cool.
Now, didn't you do something pretty cool with the ER doctor? Not so, like maybe a year or so ago?
I did Murph with her. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Well, I think there was
tell us
some
about that.
competition. Wasn't there some competition that you and your doctor did together? Because you know my background. I run and I run marathons and do Ironman events with my neurosurgeon. So I'm like, that is so stinking cool that you did that with your doctor. Oh, and by the way, we do have another commonality. You and I share the same damaged blood vessel, the pipeline.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The artery, yes, which is
Right.
really rare, by the way. Yeah, we're special that way, Mandy.
We're special
Yeah,
that
we're
way.
really special. We get the rarest of them all, you know? But yeah, yes, let's get back to you and the doctor doing some cool competition together.
Yeah, it wasn't really a competition. So in CrossFit, Murph is a big thing. It's memorializing. He was a fellow CrossFitter. He was also in the Army, I think.
I think he was a Navy SEAL.
Oh, was he Navy SEAL? Sorry. Thank you. I don't want to make that mistake.
He wishes. I was in the Army.
David was in the Army, so. But he was killed in combat, and I think it was Afghanistan.
Sounds right, yeah.
And so they do something called the Murph every year, which is it's a buyout or start out of like a 1 mile run and then 100.
Yeah, so it's a 1 mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, and 300
air squats, and then another mile run.
No, not for me. Maybe that's why I don't know what a Murph is. So did you each do this? Did you do all the legs together, or how did it work out?
So I cut my run down pretty significantly, and then I ended up doing 3/4 of the Murph, which is funny because I've always done the Murph. I've always done a half Murph. So even this year, after having my aneurysm, I did a 3/4 Murph.
Wow,
the run.
That is impressive.
Right?
That's more than I'll ever do. I'll do one of each.
Yeah, every year, because that's, I guess everybody does that during Memorial Day, I guess.
Yes, Memorial Day.
So yeah, every Memorial Day, I think about that. I say I should try that, or as it approaches, and then I always say, oh, I can't do it.
He conveniently says,
I convince myself I
can do it.
I can do it. So
if I can do it, I think anyone can do it. But
you totally have my utmost respect.
Yeah,
doing that.
We actually had this year. It was one of my really good friends that I've known since elementary school. She married one of David's friends from the Army, and he actually came and did it with him. And David both came and did the Murph with us. So
yeah, we had the whole family.
That was fun.
We'll get our daughter in make her do it next year.
She did kids CrossFit camp all summer, so we're trying to get her to drink the Kool-Aid.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, big CrossFit family.
Right.
Now
Maybe
speaking
we're in the garage at some point.
now speaking of your daughter, does she know much of what happened to you, Mandy?
Yeah, I think she knows a pretty decent amount, but
Yeah. I mean, so she was 8, I think, whenever it happened. And so, at the time, she kind of knew mommy was in the hospital, and we talked to. We were fortunate enough for we knew a really good child psychologist from our where we used to live at, and Leigh was amazing. Like, no psychologist, but she shared, like, she said, "Hey, look, I can't help you, like, tell you all the answers here, but everything you tell her should be both truthful and helpful, and it needs to be both of those things." And that was like a pretty amazing filter to filter everything through to talk to an 8-year-old about the stuff. And so, like, at the time it was, hey, if something's truthful and helpful, then, like, definitely say it. So it was a little bit filtered at the time. I think as, like, time has gone on, kids, they hear things, and I think she probably knows more than she did before. She's super excited that her mom's famous because she's in a paper, and now she's going to be doubly excited because now she's also in a podcast. So she's going to be, she's going to think her mom's pretty cool. But yeah, so I don't know if, like, necessarily she knows everything still, but probably a lot more than she did before. So yeah.
Now your daughter's name is Maddie, right?
it is, yes, Madeline.
Another thing we have in common. Our daughters, well, one of
My
our
daughter's
twins
named
is
Maddie, too.
Maddie. Well, if Maddie ever ends up listening to this podcast, Maddie, I just want to let you know that I think your mother is such an amazing woman. And you are tremendously lucky to have her as your role model because it takes a lot for me to stalk someone. And I only like to stalk the people that truly inspire me. I'm thrilled that your mom is still here with you, and you have a really cool dad too. But I just want to let you know that whenever you feel like you cannot do something hard, you look at your mom, and she's going to give you that inspiration. Okay?
Thank you. I'm often inspired by you too, Kathy. I appreciate it that you would say that I'm inspiring because I think you're so inspiring too. All the amazing things you're doing.
Well, again, it's only amazing to the onlookers, but for me, Mandy, it's really it's only because I love doing what I do, and I always say that I came out of this ordeal really lucky. No lasting deficit. Less than a year out, I ran a marathon, and just continuing to do what I love, and that's always been our mission, is to inspire people to get back to living again, and that's the main reason why I wanted to have you on this podcast. Is that you really is a testament to what really anyone could do. I mean, we can do anything, but again, it takes a village, right? It takes a village for us to get back to where we are. It takes a village, like, your family, especially David, your daughter,
For sure.
and yeah, but thank you so much. Thank you for those kind words. But again, it's just I'm just doing what I love, and it's just our way of giving back. I'm just really fortunate that you and David decided that you want to join us on this podcast, because I think it's important to let people actually see and hear your story, what you went through, like the emotional chaos, and the laughter, the tears, and the struggles, because whether you're an aneurysm survivor or not, every survivor goes through those lows and those highs, and
For sure.
it's sad many have more lows than highs, but we're hoping that, when we share these stories, and if it just gets one person to resonate with your story, then we've done our job.
For sure,
Yeah.
definitely.
And Mandy, I have to ask, were you at any point, getting back into CrossFit, were you ever concerned or afraid like something would happen with your aneurysm while you're doing CrossFit? Because it is a lot of, lifting and
Straining.
and
Yeah,
straining.
I mean, it comes in my mind every once in a while. I try not to think about it just because CrossFit brings me such joy, but I do sometimes think about it and just wondering if I'll be more cognizant of it when I'm lifting heavy and trying not to strain as much, if that makes sense.
You got to breathe.
Yeah, I know. I'm real bad about that. I
Yeah.
hold my breath, but I shouldn't.
Yeah, the reason I ask is we've heard from so many who are really afraid that and it keeps them from doing what they love, like whether it's running or biking or taking hikes or CrossFit, in your case, and they're either they get bad advice or they feel personally they can't get over that fear and it holds them back. But it's great to hear these stories like your story, that there's really no reason, as long as you're mindful of your body, that you really it shouldn't stop you, right, from
No,
challenging
definitely.
yourself.
That was something that, like, my neurosurgeon was good with me going back before I went back.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and really good coaches at
I'm
our
at gym.
gym, and so they really like kind of help build that confidence. I'd say like at least from like kind of the outside looking in, that's probably a really important thing. If anybody's ever like kind of scared of getting back into it, like find somebody who's like who wants you to get back into it and is willing to go down that journey with you, like she had there at CrossFit and Nava.
Yeah, and I ended up taking private lessons
You know.
with the owner of the gym for a while, just till I kind of
Get back.
just to get back into it.
Yeah.
And still to this day, like whenever he usually coaches the 9:30, I'm usually looking to him to help with my modifications on different exercises. So so I don't overdo something or do something foolish.
Yeah, but just having that community, finding that community again around whatever you want to do, right? Like, I mean, he's all in,
Yeah.
and everybody at the gym is all in, right? Like when they're there, he's out, he's running with her, like things. I keep telling her like I need CrossFit Mandy all the time because like afraid to do at home, she'll be out there like doing whatever. I know like one of the things she's up there like on top of a on a pull up bar doing like knees,
Banded pull-ups.
yeah, banded pull ups, knee raises, all this stuff. Like, you kind of like she has like some balance issues, but when she's at CrossFit, like it just like I know it's like her happy place, but that stuff like it's still there, but it's no it's no big deal. We were watching her. She does a competition, this wheel wad competition, which is for like adaptive athletes in CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
And literally like took herself off the box when she was doing like a box skid over. So she's up on a box and just like totally off the side of the box. And she was like, whatever, and just got up and kept on going.
Oh, wow.
So
When I
having that,
fell.
like, yeah, having that community around there and like people that are like all in on you getting back to doing what you're passionate about has been like I think a huge benefit for you there.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I would hazard to guess that it's for them a big honor to help you,
Yeah.
because you inspire them from
Yeah, I've had
what
it
you've gone through.
tell me things like that, and it's really rewarding. And I mean, not that I would, I could go back and not have an aneurysm. I would definitely not have an aneurysm, but it definitely makes it more worth it, I think.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Between that and the handicap parking.
You gotta take the perks where
Yeah,
you
where you
can.
can. Yep.
Every time we pull into the handicap spot at a really crowded place, I turn around and tell her thanks. She's like, "Yeah, totally worth it."
Not sarcastic at all.
Yeah, just don't let any of the other CrossFit gym members see that, because they'll be like, "Wait a
Wait
minute,
a minute.
I saw you at the gym. What? You cannot park here."
He's over there.
Uh,
That's awesome.
Mandy, do you have any advice for anyone out there that may be going through the same thing you've gone through, and finding it kind of a struggle getting back to what they love to do?
I would just say, I mean, my advice would be find yourself a good support group and have, I mean, I know it's kind of hard to change things at that point, but like I feel like having David and my friends and family around me has been made such a tremendous impact with my recovery because everyone's been so supportive and um so caring and loving about everything that it's made it a lot easier. Not that it's been easy, but that's made a big difference, I think.
Definitely
Let's
agree.
put David on the
Yeah.
spot.
So same question to you, David, because we don't get to ask this often.
Yeah, you're like the first
but
spouse that wanted to join in, which I think is so cool.
is because there's many husbands and wives and other family members that go through what you've gone through.
Yeah, for me, the thing that helped and I think the most is it like started when she was in the hospital is there's just so much, right? Like you're so far in a hole that it's like it feels insurmountable to get out. And so I just if you just picture like just a giant hole and you can't even see the top of it, if you just put up like a couple of long poles up to the top of that hole, and you just start to make a ladder, right? You just try to put a rung on there. And so like the first rung I know for her was like that first night, hey, let's live through the night, like that's rung number one. And you just don't worry about the top, just worry about the next rung. And just just don't get too ahead of yourself. Don't worry about what's coming up down the road. Just focus on that next rung. And I think that like it'll help, at least for me, it helped me not get overwhelmed with like the problem's so big, like you can't solve it all at once, so just put another rung on the ladder.
Yeah, that is great advice. Was there, before we end the podcast, was there anything you wanted to share that we didn't get to talk about or get to ask about?
I can't think of anything. Can you?
No, I can't think of anything.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. You guys are an awesome couple, and it's been a big pleasure to talk with you guys. And thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people will
appreciate it.
Yeah, a lot of people will get a lot of value out of it.
Good, that's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, say hello to Maddie for me and Oreo. I think I saw him running in the back every now and then, or is he lying down?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, she's back there lying on the floor.
Lump right now. Well, as Rob said, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story so candidly. And I had a blast. I had a great time. And, I'm hoping that one day I can find a marathon. I'm sure there are plenty marathons in Texas, but if I'm ever in Texas, you will be sure I will be knocking on your door. And maybe I'll attempt to do a Murph. Maybe.
Memorial Day, we'll be there.
Memorial Day, yeah, we'll be here.
Start doing some pull-ups.
Start training now.
I'll start training now.
Awesome.
All right.
We'll look
Thank
forward
you.
to it.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much again. It's really nice to meet you finally.
Thank you. You too. We Run With You is a nonprofit with a mission to improve the lives of people suffering from brain injury and disease by funding research, raising awareness, and providing support for survivors and their families. Find out more at werunwithyou.org. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a comment or review. Until next time, keep doing good.